Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Catrice Miller, and welcome to the Get Hired in 2026 webinar. I'm so excited to have you here and very excited to share this information with you. So, before we get started, let's go over a few housekeeping rules. First things first, I do have some notes I will be sharing with you. And if you have any specific questions about your job search or your particular situation, at the end of the notes, I will have an email address available to you so you can contact me directly. A lot of the information we will be covering in the webinar will be general information. So I do want to make sure I provide you with contact information to ask specific questions, and you are more than welcome to contact me. Also, if you would like to receive any portion of the presentation sent to you, I'm happy to email that to you as well. If there's any particular part that resonates with you or things you would like to receive just copies of, happy to share that. I think most of you know I am not a gatekeeper. I'm all about sharing the information, and I'm also all about helping you guys any way that I can. So this is going to be a very informal, down-to-earth conversation, but I hope it'll be incredibly helpful to you and help you on your job search in 2026. All right, let's dive in. I have some notes right here. So if you see me looking down, that's why. A lot of this is statistical based, so I want to make sure I'm getting my quotes right and quoting you guys the right information, so that's why I have the notes available. Okay, I'm going to launch the presentation. Okay, perfect. You should be able to see that, hopefully so. Okay. So yes, this is our Get Hired in 2026 webinar. This session is about informing you about the changes that have happened from 2025 to 2026, but informing you from a place of statistic, knowledge, factual-based information. And I'll tell you why these statistics are so important to me in a moment as we dive into this. Some of the things that I was noticing on LinkedIn and just online that really prompted me to host this webinar. But first, let's look at what the 2025 job market looked like. So for those of you who are currently job searching, I'm sure a lot of this looks familiar to you. We have a lot of high performers who are being overlooked, people who are generally used to receiving callbacks, used to getting interviews and landing jobs quickly. They're experiencing a slowdown, and it's not happening as fast as it used to when they were looking for jobs previously. Also, we're seeing that strong resumes aren't translating, but you're going to see in this presentation, one of the reasons they're not translating is often not because the experience isn't strong, it's the presentation that there's a gap and there's a lacking in. We'll get to that later on, but we do have strong performers out there. These are not, we don't have individuals who are entry level, just starting out, who are just experiencing these problems. I'm seeing a very high volume of mid-level career professionals who are hitting these roadblocks. Also, they're going to interviews, and the interviews are feeling inconsistent. They're feeling overwhelming. They're feeling as though they're leaving the interview, and it's two sets of people. I talk to people who say, I left the interview and I felt great about it, and then they never hear back from the recruiters, and the recruiters just stop answering and they ghost them. Or I have individuals who say, I just did horrible on that interview. I was nervous. I feel as though I didn't put my best foot forward. And so we're going to talk about those issues as well, and how interviewing is definitely one of the keys to excelling in this process. And for those of you who actually have a current job who want to advance, you're seeing that your promotions are being stalled. Maybe perhaps there are people in your group who are excelling faster than you, who might have less experience than you, but they're actually getting hired. So you may wonder, what are they doing that I'm not doing? We're going to explore those things. Now, on a personal note, what really prompted me to do this webinar really came from one post on LinkedIn. I saw this really huge influencer, I won't name names, but it was a really huge influencer who made a post who said The job market for 2025 basically sucks. It's horrible. And anyone who says otherwise is lying to you. It's just awful, horrible, and period. I'm like, okay, well, where is the optimism there? Where's the strategy there? Where's the plan there? And so it wasn't just this one post, but because this person was so influential, they had literally hundreds of people under the post saying, yeah, that's right. It's horrible. There's no hope. It's awful. And I was just so discouraged when I saw that, because not that I didn't relate to or resonate with the feelings that they were expressing, but I was very discouraged by not seeing a strategy on the other side. That's one thing I want you guys to always remember. No matter how bad things are, we have to acknowledge them, but we cannot sit in this space where there is no hope, it's doom and gloom, and there's no way to get out of whatever we're facing. And quite honestly, that's on a personal level, on a professional level, whatever the situation is. And so that's what really prompted me to make sure that I come forward with some information and some answers to help you guys, but also be very cognizant and recognize that what you're going through is real, but I'm the voice of empathy and reason. Because I feel like in this space, we have maybe either or. We have the career coaches and decided to do the webinar. My next step was, where am I going to get the information? Because I don't want to come to you guys, resume is going to be good. What could I really do that could add value to this space? And as a law professor and an educator and just a lifelong student learning all the time, I always go back to the data. I go back to research, I go back to data to see what the problems are. Because if we can clearly identify the problems, not just saying doom and gloom, it's horrible. Well, what specifically is horrible? Where are the gaps? Where are the problems? And then looking at those, and then also looking at trends to see what has changed. What is different about the job market now that wasn't the same last year or even 6 months ago? So that's what this webinar is about. It's about putting a lens on that information and figuring out what is the problem and how can we best enhance the solution. All right, generally speaking, this is the theme for 2026. And it is very much counterintuitive to what many of you are used to, even what I'm used to back when I was applying for jobs. The idea is that more is better. I remember looking for jobs, I would have like a spreadsheet, and my goal that day was to apply for as many jobs possible and put them on this spreadsheet. And I did not feel accomplished unless I spent literally 8 hours a day filling out applications and getting as many, names and positions on that spreadsheet. That is no longer the way to do this. More is not the answer in 2026. It is all about being better positioned and positioning yourself correctly in this market. The market is not just harder, it's more selective. So the key is that you need to make sure you are positioning yourself as the best candidate. There was a time where you really could be the best candidate and the positioning didn't matter as much, because the competition wasn't as stiff and recruiters had room to actually connect the dots and figure out why you were the best candidate. Those days are gone. Now it is incumbent upon you to market yourself and present yourself as the best candidate for this position. And that is going to be the overall theme in what we're talking about in this webinar this afternoon. And because you have to do that extra work, that's why it would be counterintuitive to think that you have the space and capacity to submit hundreds of applications a week. The more you specialize, the less you can have volume. It's just a simple statistic. It's a math thing. It's not going to work. So because we know we need that specialization, we're going to have to lower the volume of applications that we're applying for and present more quality applications. Now, before we dive into the information, I want to make sure I take a moment and actually formally introduce myself to those of you who don't know me. Now, I'm not going to go through all the accolades, the jobs, the degrees, and all that stuff. What matters the most is what I have done in the space of helping people like you. And I have, over the past 10 years, helped hundreds of mid-career level professionals and executives land their next role and help them advance within their current companies or in new job opportunities. I started off doing this job really just as of the service to people. People knew about my story, how I had advanced through the law firm world, through the federal government, through corporate, through education, every sector there was, I've touched it, I've done well in it, and I've advanced in it, and I've held top spots in all those areas. So people would always come to me and say, how can you help me learn how to do that? So that's how this all started. And then somewhere along the way, I said, you know what? I really need to structure this and make it an actual business so that I can better serve people and they could be my clients. And that's what happened along the way. But what's important about my story is not how great it looks on paper, because we don't care about that today, right? What we care about is the fact, the types of jobs that I've held and the spaces that I've been in, and how they give me the insight to help lead you all in your job search. I have worked for some of the most powerful Fortune 500 organizations in the country. I've also had the great fortune of evaluating, advancing, and restructuring talent across multiple levels of leadership. And I've sat in rooms where hiring decisions are made. So what you're getting from me is not AI information. And now I'm not knocking AI, because there's definitely a space for AI in the job search. I'm definitely not, condoning that. But what I'm saying is my experience and my knowledge comes from real experience that I have myself gone through, things I've seen, and then now I'm able to take that information and put it with statistics, data, and real world research of what's going on now to give you the best advice for what you should do this year coming up. All right. I always like to identify objectives, make sure we're on the right path, and make sure we understand where we're going. And these are the three things that we are going to cover this afternoon. We are going to cover these items. Number one, what the top 10% of job seekers are doing differently in 2026. These are things that you need to start doing in order to get the results that you want this year. So we're going to first look at what the data shows there and look at the statistics and the research and what you can do to enhance your marketability to be in that top 10%. Second, this is a big one. We're going to look at where is the best place for job leads in 2026. This one is surprising because it's not what we have been preaching for a long time. Not what we was preaching before was wrong, but there's evolution. You should always be evolving and making sure you're getting the most recent information. And based on the current trends, there's definitely a change in this second section. And then lastly, we're going to look at why your current job title might be blocking your opportunities in 2026. And we're going to explore ways for you to evolve your job titles to help make you more marketable. All right, let's dive in. Okay, let's start with success in 2026. What does it really look like? And this is based upon a study from I think this was the 100 job search trends of 2025. They did a survey to see what does success really look like so that we know what our definition is. And the numbers might surprise you. Only 21% of job seekers report receiving what's known as an excellent offer. Excellent meaning I'm getting everything I want. Everything is aligned, perfect job, perfect salary, perfect location, just everything's perfect, right? Only 21% are reporting that. Yet 61% are reporting that they received an offer that they believe was good, fair, and aligned with what they actually need. So what do these numbers tell us? These numbers tell us to be realistic. So this is for the person who is still holding on to, I want to have this high salary, I want to work remote, I want to have all these benefits, and not saying you can't have some of that, but we're currently in a job market that favors the employer. So they don't have to always offer all those things. And if you're in a position where you need a job right now, that's something you're going to definitely have to relax in your job search. Now, you're in a different position if you are in a space where you have a job right now. Now you have the luxury to look for that 21%. Look for that excellent offer. And I'm definitely not saying it's not out there, because you know I'm an optimist. I believe that these things can happen. But I also want to be realistic to the people who are trying to pay their bills, who are trying to get a new job ASAP. I want you to really understand what's out there and what you should be looking for. So right now, securing a role is going to look like that 61% ideally. And that means alignment means that it's in alignment with your skill set, your experience, and your target compensation. That's what we're defining as being aligned. Okay. All right, let's go to the very first thing we're going to tackle, and that is what the top 10% of job seekers are doing differently in 2026. We alluded to the first one. It's being targeted and selective. That is going to be a theme that is going to be woven into this entire presentation. Targeted means that they're not applying to those 80 plus jobs a week. They're not doing that, what's that phrase? Spray and pray applying, meaning let me apply to everything possible and just hope. And they're not just applying hoping that something sticks. These are the people who would be applying and maybe they meet like a little part of the job description, or it's at a company they really like. Let me just go ahead and apply there. No, we want to be very targeted and selective in our job search. So instead, what we're seeing is that 61%, and the source is actually listed here at the bottom of the slide, 61% are applying to 20 roles or less per week. Now, I know you're like, Catrice, you're killing me. Only 20 jobs a week. Now, am I saying you only have to do that? Absolutely not. These are statistics. And I always say, let the statistics guide you, not define you. So we should take these numbers and they should be mixed into our own formulas to determine what's best for us. But for sure, if you're at that 80, 100 number a week, you need to lower it. And you need to lower it because of some of the things we're going to talk about in here that you need to customize. You're just not going to have the bandwidth to do it all, and it's just not going to work. So 61% are applying to 20 roles or less a week. 90% apply only to roles where they meet at least 75% of the qualifications. And they are pursuing what's known as these aligned roles, not random roles. Also important, 70% of successful job seekers are customizing their resumes. And now by customizing, we don't mean the old school way where you're just doing like, let me get the job description and just drop in some of these keywords along the way. No, they are actually customizing the narrative, meaning the story that they're telling is aligned with the job that they're applying for. One thing I want you to really focus on in your job search this year is understanding we are no longer submitting resumes as chronological documents or as a testament to I did A, B, C, and D, just a snapshot of your life, so to speak. You need to look at your job search as an opportunity for you to secure the job that you want in a marketable fashion. So what you are submitting is going to be a marketable document. And when you're submitting a marketable document, we might then need to change up the presentation, the order, the names of things, and just the way that we're actually presenting it to the recruiter. The key this year is you cannot allow or rely on the recruiter to connect the dots for you. And that's what happens when you submit what's known as a chronological resume. You're basically saying, here's all my experience, just in order, You have the job description. You figure out how I have transferable skills. You figure out how I can, do these different things. They're not going to do that. They're going to pass you up. So you need to make sure you are doing that for them. And that's what it comes into, that 70% of customizing your resume, the narrative, the story that you're telling. Also, 30% are reaching out to their personal network when they see opportunities. This is something that a lot of people struggle with because they don't have the personal network to begin with. One thing I always preach is that you are always looking for a job, even when you have a good job and you're really not looking for a job. And by that, what I mean is that you are always out here meeting people, you're out here networking, you're out here expanding your personal brand so that when days like this come, you can look through your LinkedIn profile and say, oh, I know somebody who works at Microsoft. I know somebody who works at, Google or wherever you want to work. And it's going to be easy to reach out to that personal network. And I'm going to actually show you how this really does work. Forget about the job search stuff for a second. Think about Facebook. How many of us have people on Facebook who we really don't even know? Like, we don't know them for real in real life, but we communicate with them all the time. Or maybe we knew them from high school. We haven't seen them in forever, but we talk to them maybe more than we talk to like some of our close relatives who live in the geographical area of our home. That is just a testament to how social media works. Social media is a connector for people, and it connects people in a space where you don't need that tangible, close proximity touch with the person to feel connected. The same thing works on LinkedIn. So when you start going to these events, you meet people, you start commenting on their LinkedIn page, on their posts, you start engaging with them and you start developing a rapport. So then if a job opportunity comes at their company, they don't know you like that, but they're familiar with you and familiar with you enough that they might give you a referral. And we're going to see in this presentation how important referrals are. So some of the information I'm talking about this afternoon is not going to be things you can do right now, meaning you can't go out and create those relationships this weekend, but you can start this week or next week on the long-term progress, because I always want you all to be enhancing your personal network and your personal brand authority, and that's just one piece in how to do it. So more to come on that. And then lastly, 55% wrote targeted cover letters to show alignment with the position. Now, we're not doing those cover letters like old school cover letters where we just summarize the resume. That's pointless. It's a waste of time, and that's not going to cut it anymore. So with these cover letters that we're talking about that the successful people are using, they are connecting their background directly to the company's pain points. That's a big one. A lot of times you hear showing transferable skills and making sure you connect that. But what's also important in cover letters and for sure in the interview is to make sure you're able to identify what are the pain points for this position or for this company, and what skills do I bring and what value add can I include or showcase to show how I can be a solution. That's very important. You need to show yourself as a solution to the problems that they have. I guarantee, I don't always say ever or always, but I can say for sure, every job opportunity, every job posted, there's a problem that goes along with that job. Because if there was no problem they needed to solve, why would they pay somebody to come in and do that job? So your job on the front end is going to be to figure out what is the real problem they're trying to solve with this position. And once again, this goes back to why we don't have time to, do 80 or 100 job applications. We don't have time to do this in-depth analysis if we're doing that many. But you need to really look, okay, this is the job title. What is the problem here? my job, I work in labor relations. So you can read the bullet points all day, but I need to look at, okay, what is the actual problem that I'm solving? And that's what I would speak to in the interview. So that's what you need to actually do in the cover letter as well. So our takeaway here is understanding we are not going to just wait for the recruiter or the employer to connect the dots for us. We're going to be proactive. We're going to do more, not apply more, quantifying way. We're going to do more in a quality sense as far as what we are actually submitting for our job applications. Okay, I went over a little of this in that first slide, but just want to reiterate some of the points here. On our resume, we're going to have, a marketable document versus a historical document. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to identify a target job. So many of us say, I've been a recruiter. Every job I've had has been recruiter. So that means that I'm going to apply for recruiter jobs. That's very much tunnel vision. And that would work in a job market where there are tons of jobs available. You need to, and we'll talk about this in our third objective, the job changing of the titles, but you need to really look at, okay, I've always done this type of job, but is this job still marketable or is it obsolete in the market? And if it is obsolete, there's a way we can change that title, which we'll get to in objective number 3. But you need to identify what is the target job I'm applying for. Even if, and this is what trips people up too, sometimes the target job is not a job you've ever even held. And you may say, well, how can I list a target job on my resume if I've never had that job? Simple, because you're creating a marketing document. We're not going to lie in your job history. We're going to say what you did, whatever those jobs are, but you're showing the recruiter what you can do and what you're applying for. And I have an example following this slide so you guys can see it in real time. We're going to identify what the target job is. And once we identify the target job, we're going to identify what are the targets, those transferable skills that go along with that target job. And those transferable skills, that's the nexus. That's the connection. So we're going to have the target job up top, transferable skills, and your jobs down here that actually have those transferable skills. So the recruiter can say, oh, I get it. They were this job down here, but because they have these connecting skills, this is why their target job is this, which is actually the job that I have to offer. All right. And then lastly, tip on resume, metrics matter. Metrics tell stories. Numbers tell stories that words alone do not. You can say that you increase productivity, or you can say you increase productivity by 30%. That also just shows, number one, it shows how much, obviously, but it has impact. So what I want to challenge you on your resume, I want you to look at your resume and I want you to look for a couple things. Is it obvious what impact you had on the company? Not what you did, because those bullet points show what you did, but do you show impact? Or does your resume just read like you did stuff? So if your resume is not showing impact, that is one of the problems why you're not getting hired, because you're competing against people who are doing the same jobs as you, but in their bullet points, they're showing those metrics. Now you may say, Catrice, okay, metrics mean money. I didn't make any money for the company. I didn't save any money for the company. Okay, first of all, I would challenge that, because unless you're a nonprofit, I really believe that every job has some financial piece to it. It may not be super obvious, but that's what I work with my clients on, figuring out what's your money piece. How are you saving money or making money for the company? But let's just get past that and say, pretend you don't have the money piece. There are so many other metrics you can show. You can show volume. You can show percentages. You can show comparisons. So volume would be like, let's say if you were a paralegal, you could show the caseload, the number of cases that you were able to, process within a quarter, just making that up, as opposed to, I did these cases in a quarter. It said I did a volume of, 300 cases in a quarter, something that makes sense to that industry, right? That shows volume. That's a number, it's metric, it shows volume. Percentages does the same thing. Another great one is comparisons. When you compare yourself either to your peers within your organization, like I was the top seller, if I was in sales, I was a top seller in my unit selling, X amount of whatever I sold, okay? Or you can compare yourself with others in the industry. So however you do it, you got to get those numbers on there, because you're not telling an impactful story. You're telling your story, but you're not telling an impactful story, and that is also holding you back. Okay, this is a snapshot of one of the resumes that I use with my clients to help them present to their prospective employers. And what we do, kind of like we were just talking about, we have the target job here, and then we're going to identify the key top 3 keyword skills, high priority skills for that job. We're going to list those here, and we're going to say how you have those, because you have them transferably with your job experience. Then we're going to do a signature strengths category where we list those key skills. And so this right here is the snapshot here of the resume. This is what you would customize every job that you have. Now, it doesn't take a lot of work, because you shouldn't be applying to like a bunch of different jobs that are so randomly different from each other. That target job title might change, but you really should find that a lot of the core competencies and strengths and skills should match. So you shouldn't have to change a lot in the top part, but this is what you would customize when you're changing and applying for different roles. And this bottom part here, this is your professional experience. We're going to, as we just said before, we're going to switch it up, and we're going to stop just saying, I did A, B, C, and D. We're going to show how we did it with impact. We're going to show how we did it with numbers and metrics, and we're going to show any achievements that we made in that process. Any like awards or accolades, recognition, anything that we can add that could show and communicate success and build value. And I think what makes this really hard is really hard for us to look at ourselves and pat ourselves on the back and brag on ourselves, right? So that's why sometimes working with a career coach, or even just, a friend, or just somebody who's not you, looking at your resume to help you pull out these accolades, these achievements, these metrics, because we just tend to have a tendency to be very humble, and that works against us a lot of times in this space. Okay, let's move to number 2. We're going to talk about where are the jobs? Where are the jobs now in 2026? Now, here's the big misconception. Everyone thinks the best place to apply for jobs is LinkedIn. And you think that because everyone's told you that. That's why you think that. And let me say, this is not that I'm dissing LinkedIn. LinkedIn still has an amazing place in this job search process, but it has evolved as far as the importance and the role that LinkedIn plays. Let me give you a quick little history lesson. LinkedIn is a social media platform. So when LinkedIn was first introduced, it really is social media, just like Facebook and Instagram and all those things. So LinkedIn originally had the envision of connecting people. That was the job of LinkedIn, just connecting, professional people in professional settings. What they did was they then introduced the job search feature, where you can actually look for jobs on LinkedIn. So people obviously started doing that. And employers were posting jobs, people looking for jobs, all the things. And somewhere along the way, for a lot of people, LinkedIn started losing that social connection and just became a job board. And when that happens, what happens then is now we have an overly saturated job board where employers are posting a job and they're getting 2,000 applicants for one job. And this is just not ideal, and it's not the best way for recruiters to find candidates. So they're still posting these jobs. Don't get me wrong. You're still going to see those jobs on LinkedIn, but they're now moving to alternative ways and more creative ways to use LinkedIn. One way they're using LinkedIn, it's through reverse recruiting, which is why it is so incredibly important for you to have your LinkedIn profile properly optimized and set up. For those of you who hear that word optimize and it sounds like a transformer word or something, optimize is just a fancy way of saying your LinkedIn profile is showcasing your skill sets, your achievements, your value. So when a recruiter sees it, it's good. They know. That's optimization. So your profile needs to be optimized, because with reverse recruiting, what recruiters are doing, they're still posting the jobs, but they're actually going on the back end and they're going into profiles and they're searching for qualified candidates through LinkedIn's recruiter feature. They have different settings than you and I. They can do background searches where they can say, okay, I'm looking for this job. I'm looking for a person who has this skill set. Who here on LinkedIn has that? And with their recruiting tools, LinkedIn will show them the profiles. And they are actually then jumping into the inboxes of those people and saying, hey, would you like to, discuss this role? I have this opportunity. Now you may say, okay, why is this recruiter like being so nice to me, bringing me jobs? Remember, what is the job of the recruiter? The recruiter's main focus or main point of their job and job security comes from them being able to find qualified candidates to bring to hiring managers. So believe me, if they have a vested interest in finding good candidates. So it's not like they're just trying to help you. They're really trying to help themselves as well by finding qualified candidates. So that's why it's so important for you to have your profile optimized so that when they do that backward search or background search, you look viable and desirable to them as a candidate. Another important thing with that profile optimization, you need to make sure that your profile is set up for open to work. Now, when I say open to work, I don't mean the green banner where everybody sees it, all right? And I'm not knocking that, but that's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about the open to work feature where no one sees it unless you're a recruiter. And here's why this matters. On the back end, the recruiters don't have an endless amount of, they're called in-mails. In-mails are like reaching out saying, hey, would you like to discuss this job? They don't have an endless supply of those. They have a large number of them, but they're not endless. So they're being selective about who they reach out to. So if they see someone who doesn't have their skills optimized, they don't have the open to work feature on, why would they waste one of their in-mails on you? Because you look like you're either not qualified or you look like you're not searching for a job right now. So make yourself look attractive to them on the back end. Have that open to work visibly seen by them. And with that, it isn't just a switch. It's actually a switch plus selections. So you're saying open to work and you're telling them the different ways you're open to work. LinkedIn has that preset for you. You make those selections. So it gives them information. And make sure your profile is optimized. Now, and also, quick note about LinkedIn. The place you want to avoid is the easy apply button. Because number one, anything that's super easy usually is not super beneficial. And that's what we're finding, what statistics are showing with the easy apply, because everybody is using that. Because we know with easy apply, you hit easy apply, you select maybe 3 different things, upload your resume, send it. What's happening, that's even more overly saturating that space, and that's not becoming a good applicant pool. So stay away from easy apply. That's one key takeaway. And so you're maybe saying, well, where should I go? If you're saying don't apply on LinkedIn, use LinkedIn as, optimization and as a recruiting tool, the data shows that the big number of hires are coming from company career pages. So the idea is that you should use LinkedIn to figure out where the job is being advertised, but get off LinkedIn and go to the company's page and apply for the job there, because we're not seeing as many applicants come from that source, but we are seeing an increase in hiring from that space. And here's the actual data. And this is like cut off, but the source is, it's up here. Ashby HQ is showing how this actually works. So down here, the green is the job board trends and job boards are LinkedIn, Indeed, all those places. And up here, these are actually coming from those who apply directly on the website. So it is for sure an increase. It is an increase of individuals who are applying directly on the website and receiving better results. So that is going to be a key piece of information for you when you're applying for your jobs this year using the company pages. Okay, we showed that one. Okay, another source that a lot of people are not using, and that is going to be the niche job sources. So many people only use LinkedIn and Indeed. They don't think of anything other than that. But we're seeing a lot of job opportunities coming from these niche job sites, job sources. And you may ask, well, what is that? Where are these things at? These are going to be those Facebook, LinkedIn boards that are specific to the role in the industry that you're applying for. So how you find them? You can go through a site called Perplexity or even use Google to find these boards. You'll find boards you didn't even know existed. And here, I even put a prompt you can just use here that's super easy. You just say, list these job boards for human resources, for example. So what this is showing us is that we're finding that employees and candidates are 14 times more likely to be hired on these sources than through some of the traditional job boards, because it's kind of like a common sense thing. If you think about it, it's very narrow, it's very specialized, it's very much a niche space. That's why, and also it's not heavily saturated. That's another good thing. So that's why you're seeing success there. Now, let me also tell you the benefit from when you're searching for these. You may think, well, I'll just use ChatGPT. You can use ChatGPT, but note with ChatGPT, ChatGPT is a general purpose conversational AI chat box that's designed for creative writing, coding, and dialogue. That's why I advise using an AI tool like Perplexity. It's also free like ChatGPT, but it's an answer engine that's focused on real-time research, website citations, and accuracy. So ChatGPT would be more like, help me write this, okay? Perplexity is more so, help me research and find this. So that's the difference between the two. Both of them work for sure, but that's just why I listed that one, because I find that job seekers find more success using that as a source. Okay. All right. And then here I just included an example of, and it may be kind of hard to see, but the actual job board that is the niche board, and then the focus area, and then the description, just to kind of give you another example. Okay. Another thing that we need to do in this category, which we kind of alluded to, and that is the idea of expanding your target company list. We found that a lot of people love applying for Fortune 500 jobs only because it sounds impressive. I want to work at Google. I want to work at Microsoft, all the things, right? But those companies are actually experiencing less hires percentage-wise. when you compare them to small and mid-sized businesses. Small and mid-sized businesses are actually having a greater hiring spurt than these larger companies because they are having more layoffs and they're experiencing more job turmoil. So if it is your dream to work at Google, I'm not saying ditch that dream. I'm just saying make sure you're being open-minded. You need to be open-minded and not just having that tunnel vision and applying in other sources as well. So I would encourage you to look past those large companies, look for those mid-sized companies, and also a great thing to do, go back to networking, you utilize your alumni connection. So many of us went to great undergrad schools, and I'm preaching from the choir, y'all. I went to Northwestern and I never use it. I mean, I go back there, I speak there, I do great things there, but I never really use it for networking. And I'm actually making a promise to myself. I'm going to change that this year. I'm not looking for a job. I'm incredibly happy where I'm at now, but still, like I told you, we need to be building our network, right? Even when we are happy in our jobs. So I need to be looking for alumni at Northwestern in my field and building those networks. So if I can call myself out on it, I want you all to call yourself out on it too. You all should be doing that as well. Will that help you like right now today? Maybe not, but it will help you in the long run. And quite honestly, it could help you today if you connect with the right person. So that definitely is something that I encourage you to start sooner rather than later. And this goes along with, because we're still under number 2, where are the jobs? So we've explored getting off the traditional job boards, looking at niche job boards. We've explored looking at not just those big companies, looking at mid-size and smaller companies. Also now we're going to close out number 2 with employee referrals. Employee referrals are huge. This is so big in getting jobs in 2026. But yet so many people don't do this. You are literally 4 to 5 times more likely to get hired if you have a referral. Now, what do I mean by a referral? Now, each company is different, but traditionally what a referral looks like is you apply for the job and there may be a section where you list that person's name, or what some companies do is if you have the referral, they initiate the application for you and they put your name in the system, and then the system sends you a special application. It really varies, company to company. Now, you may say, well, Catrice, I don't have time to go out building all these relationships. Let me show you how quick it happens. I spoke at Loyola University. Love Loyola. That's one of my favorite educational spots. I spoke at Loyola University, gave a presentation there. One of the audience members came up to me. He enjoyed the presentation so much. He introduced himself. He said, I work at Uber. And he said, he even just cut to the chase. He was like, you know what? I work at Uber. Feel free to use me as a referral source if you or anybody you know is interested in working at Uber. All from me getting out there, giving that talk. Would I have experienced that if I'm sitting in my house listening to podcasts and just watching TV and Netflix? No. So you got to get out there and network. You will be so surprised. People get it. That guy understands. That tells me that's a guy who's been through the job search process recently. And he's like, look, let me just cut to the chase and tell you, I work at Uber, happy to, be a referral for you. Now, he did that obviously because he saw my presentation. He got some goodwill from me as far as, credibility through the presentation. But I'm just showing you that as an example of how easy it really is to build your network. And so you may say, well, what if he's not at Uber? When I'm ready to get the job. Well, that's the power of LinkedIn. We're going to know wherever he goes because we're going to be friends with him on LinkedIn. We're going to be connected with him on LinkedIn. So whatever company he goes to, we'll get that referral too. So we want to make sure we are making these connections and then just, staying connected with them, engaging with them on social media, on their LinkedIn posts, liking the things they post and commenting. It really is that simple, guys. Okay. I know we're kind of short on time, so let me kind of move through this. I want to get you out of here in an hour. I tend to host these at the lunchtime hour because I know people might be working and have to get back to work after lunch. So I do want to, be respectful of your time. But as I said before, you are always welcome to email me any specific questions that you have. Let's advance to our third one. This is just our recap of where hiring is taking place. We went over all that. I think everyone's pretty good on that. That's the recap of that information. All right. Last but not least, stop using obsolete job titles. Okay. Your job title could literally be costing you the interview. So we want to look at what are marketable titles in 2026 and also versus what are just internal titles and knowing the difference. Internal titles are often meaningless outside the company. And many companies use these creative titles, inflated titles, legacy titles, and things that just don't really translate to the outside world. So I gave one example, which is Administrative Specialist 3. Now, what does the 3 mean, right? To the outside world. And what is the specialist piece? So what we're going to do with this, what I want to challenge you to do is don't just look at your titles, look at your duties. So when I see this, I don't know what Administrative Specialist 3 means. So I'm going to look at what does that person really do? Okay. Now, if I look at their duties and I see that Administrative Specialist 3 actually manages vendors, handles budgets, oversees operations, to me, that sounds aligned with operations manager, business operation leader, office operation manager. And you may just get freaked out like, oh, I didn't manage any people. I can't be out here lying. Well, first of all, we're not lying. We are just changing the title to give you a more marketable title. It happens all the time. Also, very important to remember, management is not just of people. You can manage things. So it's okay to say you are a manager if you don't manage people. The key is that you want to make sure you are being aligned with what you actually did and using a marketable title that is going to resonate with that employer. So here are the steps for how you figure out how to do that. As I said, number 1, identify what you actually did. Break down your real responsibilities, the impact, the level of decision making that you made, not just the job description. Number 2, once you know that stuff, what does the market call that? Translate your work into the language and titles the external market recognizes and rewards. And then 3, align your title with that target role. Strategically position your title to reflect the level you're pursuing. Now, you may be thinking, here come the objections. Isn't that lying? Isn't that being dishonest? Can I legally change my job title? Here's the answer. You cannot fabricate experience, but you can absolutely translate a title. It happens all the time. And quite honestly, what employers verify on job verification, they are verifying, number 1, did you really work there? That's one of the biggest lies people tell, that they worked somewhere and they didn't. Did you really work there? Also, what were the dates and the times in which you worked there? And then they're also looking to see, were there any reasons as to why they wouldn't have you back, like negative, impacts or situations with that employer. Now, here's a quick legal fact. There's also a key piece, and this is why a lot of previous employers don't even do professional references or job recommendations and it's for defamation. There has been a series of defamation cases that have come out of job referrals, so much to the point where a lot of past employers are very cryptic and very limited on what information they want to share, because there have been cases in which people have not received that job that they were applying to, And come to find out, the former manager said things that were negative, and the applicant is challenging, saying, well, you're defaming me. Because defamation, the elements, not to get all law professor on you guys, but the elements of defamation are going to be a defamatory statement about the plaintiff that's publicized and then has damages. Defamatory statement is a false statement about the person that's you, publicized, you're telling it to someone, damages, it affects your job search. So if that applicant can argue that manager's lying, I didn't really do those things, that negative stuff they're saying, if that is a good argument and it's true, that's a defamation case because it's false, it's about that person, it's publicized, and it impacted their job. Hence a quick defamation case. So what a lot of employers are saying is that we don't want to be liable for these managers out here saying the wrong stuff and injecting their opinions into the process. So let's just make our process be that we verify very limited information. And this may resonate with some of you may have heard this, like, oh, we'll only verify these 3 things. So I just say all that to say, verification is not what you think it is. They're not getting on the phone, going line by line with your resume, title by title. They're really verifying the experience, the time you were there, and the actual important information. And this happens all the time. When in doubt, I always recommend work with a career coach, work with a professional in the industry who can maybe give you some guidance if you want to say, hey, I did this, I want to change it to that. Give me some help. Do you think this is right? Now, I also included an example of this, a great example. This is a perfect one, DEI. There was a time when DEI was so hot, meaning all the jobs in DEI, everywhere you look, there was a DEI job. So people have these resumes with all this DEI language. As you see, companies have changed, culture has changed, government administrations have changed. DEI is no longer a hot, marketable title. So if you are looking for jobs and every job on your resume has DEI in it, if you're going to these job boards and these niche boards or wherever, and you're looking for a DEI job, that's going to be a short search. So you have to ask yourself, what is a marketable title, a target title that I can apply for in 2026 that's aligned with DEI? And here are just some examples that go along with that. These are some real titles that you will find that have jobs available. So when that's step 1, finding that job. Now you have to make your resume align with those titles and doing the things that we talked about. The key takeaway here is understanding no longer are we just creating that chronological document that said, I did this, and that, not making any changes, not making it impactful, not making it transferable, not making it marketable. You have to do those things in 2026 in order to succeed. And I also include another one, recruiter. That's another one that's experienced a little bit of, getting outdated. Not as bad as DEI. DEI is real bad. I've seen a lot of people struggle with DEI, but recruiter is another one. Okay, I made it at 12:59, right under the 1 hour. Here is my email address. You are more than welcome to email me any quick questions that you have about this presentation, or even just comments. You want to comment or give me feedback, I would love to hear it. You are welcome to do so there. And also, before you go, I want to offer you what I am doing now with my career coaching program. Much like we talked about the volume and quality over quantity, I realize now that there are some job seekers who really are doing it right. Meaning, because this market is so hard, they really don't need career coaching. They just need to, ride the wave, keep being consistent, and they will find the job that they're looking for. But there are people out there who have gaps in their job search. They're not doing a lot of the stuff we talked about today. They're not doing, we didn't even get to the interview. That's a whole different presentation. And I'm actually thinking about giving a presentation on interview tips in March. But they're not doing the right things in interviews. They're not doing the right things with their job search. Those are the people that I work with now. So I'm very selective up front because I don't want you to waste your time or your money working with me if I truly can't help you. So what I do now is I offer potential clients a career strategy call where you set up a call with me, you forward me your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and then we have this strategy call and we see, do you have gaps in your career process? And if so, I will help identify those gaps for you for free. And I'll tell you, you're a great candidate for coaching. Or I may say, look, you got this. You're doing everything right. Just keep doing it. I'll give you some free resources you can use and, we go about your way that way. But that is how I'm approaching my career counseling and coaching for 2026 and going forward based on this job market. So you are always welcome to sign up for a career clarity call with me. You can go to my website and that it will prompt you and lead you to where you need to go for that. There's the website right there. Okay. I wish I looked this good. This is definitely AI. I told you guys AI had a place in this, right? And it definitely had a place in getting this little cute girl on this phone. That's not me, but it's an AI generated version of me. But I like the shirt. Strategy over scarcity. And in closing, this is what I want to tell you guys. Do not, remember I started off in the beginning telling you about that influencer who was saying the world is over, careers are over, doom and gloom. Do not surround yourself with negativity. Yes, it's hard out here. Yes, it's rough out here, but you have to find a way. You have to persevere, and you can with strategy. With strategy, you can get through anything and you can overcome anything. So let's do that combination. Let's recognize it's hard. Let's be real about it, but let's also be strategic about it because you can win this year. And I truly, truly want the best for all of you guys. Okay. Great having the afternoon with you. Look forward to staying connected with you guys on social media. And if you enjoy these presentations, I'm hoping to do more webinars. Let me know. I'm really thinking about doing that interview webinar in March, where I talk about top tips for interviews and skills you can, enhance your interview skills. So love to hear your feedback either way. All right, guys, have a wonderful work day and have a wonderful day and a great weekend. And I look forward